Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Monday morning to you all. Hope you guys are doing well out there this morning and having a fantastic start to your work week. And I hope everyone had a great weekend out there. Here to give you the updated information on what's going to happen weather-wise for your Monday. We'll break down what is going to be a pretty wintry start to your week across areas of the country. And then we'll talk about everybody else too, which I think over the next few days, the weather's going to be pretty quiet for a good chunk of the lower 48. But some changes are on the way. We have maybe multiple storm systems that we have to watch. There's some differences with the model guidance, and I really do think there's a strong signal for a big storm system, maybe for the middle of the country. Could this track into the eastern U.S.? Absolutely. There's going to be kind of another separate system for this weekend that could throw a wrench in everybody's weekends plans, like across the eastern U.S. So we need to figure that one out. So we will have a video this evening. Just want to tell you guys that right off the dot. We'll not leave you hanging there, and we'll get pretty deep into the information that we have about this unsettled weather coming up. But let's enjoy this week. I think for the most part, for this work week, like Monday through Friday, I think it's going to be rather quiet for the most part. So we'll speak on everything though, and we'll talk about what's to come. We'll have a separate time-stamped out section for that information on what we were seeing on down the road, and we'll break it all down for you folks. So if you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. I thank y'all for the continued support, even though things have slowed down somewhat. Thank you for people who continue to tune in. I feel like I've just kind of naturally took a break from social media over like the last couple weeks. I haven't found myself checking my phone as much. So it's like it's just coming natural, which was hard in the past couple years when my YouTube got big and things like that. It was always hard to kind of delatch, if you will, from my phone and social media, but it seems like it's coming more natural now, which is great. It's a blessing. And just kind of been taking advantage of the slower time. So I know I'm behind on comments, and I'll get to all of them this afternoon from this past weekend, and we'll get caught up with that. So if you folks got anything that I can pray about or pray over, as always, please put those in the comments below. It gives me an opportunity to pray over it, and it gives others an opportunity to do so too. So let's get rocking and rolling. So what's going on out there this morning? We got snow flying around across the Great Lakes region and the interior Northeast. Now, nothing too crazy out there, but I do think things will get really juiced up today. We'll have just lake-enhanced snow, call it lake effect snow, which is really what it is. But we'll kind of get energy that'll flow down from the northwest, and a little bit of a northwest flow event all the way as far south as West Virginia. Some flakes could certainly make it all the way into northern Kentucky today, but certain areas will pick up accumulating snow, and then certain areas will just kind of get brief sort of burst of snow throughout the Ohio Valley and the interior Northeast today. The Southeast pretty quiet, some thunderstorms in Florida that we'll speak on. The central and western U.S., though, for the most part, a very quiet Monday. We still have some moisture popping off this upper level spin that's been around in the southwest since last Wednesday or Thursday, and we will continue just to have a little bit of moisture, but nothing too impactful, I would say. So that's what's going on right now. Let's move on to the Storm Prediction Center. The only area we'll watch for a chance for severe weather is Florida. We do have a level 1 out of 5 risk, a marginal risk. So, this is really driven off just a small hail threat and a damaging wind threat. Tornado threat will be there, just like it always is with any severe weather risk, but it's below 2%, so it doesn't even show up. Some thunderstorm activity possible south of Corpus Christi down to Brownsville, Texas, and a little bit of thunderstorm activity possible for LA, San Diego. There's a chance you guys might not get a drop of rain, though. Kind of a setup like that. But a flooding threat below 5%, so it doesn't even show up on this, so no point in staying too long on that. Watches, warnings, and advisories. We do have some winter weather advisories continuing up here from Wayne County and Wisconsin. I could see them reissuing them in the UP of Michigan later today for some more snow on the way. It's already snowing a little bit up there now, but I think it'll get more juiced up as we get a little bit deeper into the work week. But winter weather advisories up for the Tuck-Hill Plateau, where several inches of snow could fall. And we'll see if they'll issue any winter weather advisories sort of downstream from Lake Erie. Not sure if they're going to pull the trigger on that. But we do have, if you're wondering what this huge area and sort of this dark purple is, that's freeze warnings. Some areas are below freezing, and then some areas will get below freezing tonight. And we'll kind of speak on how cold the temperatures are going to get for tonight, for tomorrow morning, for areas of the southeast who are worried about people who've planted, and just making sure you protect your plants. I mean, we're kind of getting deeper into March now. The trees are starting to bloom. Everything's starting to bloom. It's been very warm. Pollen's going insane. So it's certainly springtime in the southeast now. There's no way around that fact. So definitely getting some late season freezes, which really aren't uncommon at all. So we'll talk more on that tonight, how cold it could get for these areas. We'll have a separate segment right in the beginning of the video. But everybody else, I mean, this is pretty rare to not really see anything out west. We do have some lake wind advisories up for certain areas, like in the Midlands of South Carolina. There's some things that just don't show up on this map, but there is some advisories. But I mean, not a big deal at all. Just some breezy conditions behind the cold front, or in the head of the cold front. But the southeast today, this morning, rather quiet. We'll get some moisture that'll move from the Gulf over the peninsula of Florida back out into the east side of Florida into the Atlantic. And, like I mentioned, some thunderstorms are likely today in central Florida especially. Watch out Orlando, Tampa Bay, maybe Fort Lauderdale. I mean, any areas into here, especially central Florida, could get some storms. These will all sort of drift southward with a boundary, very slow sagging boundary that'll kind of try to make it through Florida. I'm not sure if it's going to sweep through the entire state of Florida, though. It's just getting kind of late in the year now for these cold fronts to make it all the way down here. Just like when it's in the fall and it's hard for those cold fronts initially to make it all the way through Florida, and eventually they do start making its way. We're getting later now, so it's now hard for them to get down there also. But some thunderstorms are possible in central and southern Florida today for sure. So please be aware of that. Can't rule it out also in northern Florida. But if you look really closely here, and we'll zoom into this, there's some moisture that's going to try to develop with some energy. It tries to form with this trough. Now, I haven't seen many people talking about this, and honestly, I'll be completely real with you folks. This is the first time I saw it this morning. I've been so zoomed out of the weather this weekend, to be completely frank. Just other things going on that I haven't really had a whole lot of time to dive into things, so shame on me. But maybe a little bit of snow mixing with the rain tonight in North Carolina. We'll take a closer look at this. You see this? Extreme eastern sections of North Carolina certainly could get some flakes mixing in if you're awake around midnight tonight, just after midnight. Could get some wet snowflakes mixing in these areas. I mean, maybe the Outer Banks. Just watch out. I wouldn't say watch out. It's not like something you need to watch out for, but just you might notice it if you're a night owl, if you're up, but work the night shift and you're in this area. Watch out for some flakes mixing with this. Not a big deal whatsoever. But we've seen things like this catch people by surprise. So not going to say you heard it here first, but, just be aware that could happen. I'll be interesting. I'm not a big fan of March snow, but, we'll take it. You're right. But the Northeast today, this morning, not a whole lot going on. It's really later today, almost kind of a convective element to it. We'll get some amplification of some snow. Now, this is around 2-3 p.m. this afternoon. I mean, you're seeing a lot of blue on your map, ain't you? Like in Ohio, even western PA, the southern tier of New York, western New York, all the way up to the Adirondacks, some snow in Vermont. So some snow showers will drift into New Hampshire, a little bit of snow shower activity in northern Maine. It's cold enough for it. It's definitely going to be a cold March day. And, to me, it doesn't look like you have any super consolidated bands, meaning just steady streamers setting up over one area. But in certain areas, you'll get a more long duration of snow, like maybe the Tug Hill Plateau today than others. And then by the time you get into later this evening, things will begin to taper off. So some snow in southern Ontario. We'll talk more about Michigan here in a second. We get into tonight, maybe a steady streamer right up here, kind of south of the Tug Hill Plateau and along it. Maybe some snow will be drifting around in Watertown, Syracuse, and even Rochester, even Buffalo. And, this will continue all the way to tomorrow morning. And then we have another impulse of energy that kind of moves over Lake Huron, moves over southern Ontario, and then begins to cruise right into the interior sections of the Northeast. And, we're getting into tomorrow morning. Look at this snow flying around across western New York State. And it's just another solid push of moisture that flies in. This is more of just a well put together area of snow. As we're getting into tomorrow, certainly a lot of snow flying around midday tomorrow. This isn't today, but I mean, it'll be similar Monday and Tuesday, today and tomorrow. But I mean, look at all the snow flying around across New York State. Northern Pennsylvania, and some of this will try to drift all the way, maybe all the way to New York City. We'll see, tomorrow evening. And I mean, this is still ongoing. We got another little, impulse of energy trying to move, southeastward. So, all the way into Tuesday night, we still got snow flying around. Very wintry start to your week up here. And even after, the start of the week, I think that we're going to just have a colder week in the Northeast for sure. More winter-like than spring-like for sure. And guys, this is just between, and we'll extend it all the way out into really Wednesday evening. Even though the HRRR model that we just showed you don't go out that far. But, this is snowfall between now and Wednesday evening. I mean, that's a lot of snowfall in the interior sections of New York State. Ski country still thriving up here. And, areas south of Buffalo and southeast of Buffalo, several inches of snow, maybe 6 to 8 inches of snow just between now and, Wednesday evening. A little bit of snow in the higher elevations of Pennsylvania and West Virginia and Maryland. Okay, so, we'll take a closer look to some of these areas. All right, let's take a look at the Cleveland area. This was issued not too long ago, a couple hours ago. About an inch of snow, inch and a half of snow, a little bit more snow, a little bit kind of east of town, but just some dusting amounts across northern Ohio. Half an inch here, quarter of an inch there, an inch here. All right, and then we move down to the Pittsburgh region. Pittsburgh, maybe a half an inch between now and 8 a.m. Wednesday. A little bit more up the road to the north. So if I'm going too fast, I do apologize. Just freeze the screen. I don't want to stay too long on this stuff when, I hope it's pretty clear on your video here. But, out of this region, out of State College, not expecting any accumulations, but that doesn't mean you couldn't get a dusty inch or something. Ridgeway, 2 to 3 inches of snow. Warren, 2 to 3. Bradford, 4 to 6 inches of snow. I mean, that's almost a half a foot of snow, guys. That could definitely happen. Now, some of these areas have already picked up some snow, but Buffalo, inch or less. Springville, another 4 to 6 inches of snow just between now, guys, just between now and 8 a.m. tomorrow. We got more snow on the way for these areas. So I just want to reiterate that more snow after this is likely. And then the Tuck Hill Plateau is going to get a good bit. I mean, anywhere from 8 to 12 inches of snow with more snow after this. And the towns around it, a few inches of snow for sure. Fulton, 2 to 3. And then we continue to move down to the Binghamton region. Boonville, over 6 inches of snow is possible. Utica, I think that's how you pronounce it. Somebody's already corrected me on that. But around 6 inches of snow. Hamilton, around 3 to 4. Binghamton, maybe an inch. Syracuse, 4 inches of snow. And this is between now and 8 a.m. Wednesday. So it goes out another day compared to the National Weather Service area out of Buffalo. This is between now and 8 a.m. Wednesday also. Stowe, maybe an inch and a half of snow. But, the Valley region's going to struggle like Burlington. You're not going to get as much. Cranberry Lake, 3 to 4 inches of snow. But you really got to be up in the spine of the highest elevations of Vermont and New Hampshire to see the snow. All right, so hopefully that helps you guys out, and we'll talk a little bit more on that here in the coming videos because we will just have a snowy week out in front of us. Definitely not just a one-day event. South Central U.S., it's pretty quiet weather. Some showers, even some storms are possible in southern sections of Texas today. Just some kind of rainy conditions where the cold front really hasn't kind of pushed south enough to really get rid of the moisture and clear out the atmosphere. So some storms, some showers are possible down here. And then, we get, into Tuesday morning. Really nothing going on as we wake up for our Tuesday morning. Quiet conditions, nice conditions. So a relatively quiet day across the South Central U.S. And, Tuesday looks about the same, honestly. North Central U.S., really the only area that's going to have some active weather is the Great Lakes region. And then as we start to get into this afternoon, we'll start to see widespread snow showers, some areas just some flurries, and then some areas just some downright bursts of snow in Ohio, areas of Indiana, and certainly lower Michigan will experience this, and we'll continue to get this, and they'll get more, I would say they blossom more in the afternoon, evening, and then they'll really mellow out by the time you get later in the evening. And, I think the UP of Michigan will be pretty quiet today. I think the UP of Michigan will pick up more snow late this evening. Even the northern counties of Wisconsin could get a little band of snow that moves in. But then as we start to get into later this evening tonight, a more solid kind of put together area of snow sweeps through the UP of Michigan, and then it sweeps through kind of more so northern lower Michigan, moves into Ontario, widespread snow tomorrow morning, accumulating snow, and then that's the same piece of energy that will push through the interior northeast tomorrow with more widespread snow. This will kind of bring another push of cold air. We'll get the lake effect snow streamers going off Lake Superior, again, a little bit off the northern sections of Lake Michigan also, and this will just add additional snowfall totals. Could be pretty heavy too, especially for the eastern sections of the UP of Michigan. This is snowfall between now and Wednesday evening, and guys, sorry to leave you hanging, but I don't have any individual graphics for the Great Lakes region. They haven't really updated a lot of information, but another few inches of snow is likely in all of the UP of Michigan. But once you get into the eastern UP of Michigan, there's certain areas that could get over a half a foot of snow. And then even certain areas in the northern sections of lower Michigan could get another half a foot of snow. But in general, just widespread 3 to as much as 6-inch snowfall totals in northern lower Michigan. And then in the southern half of lower Michigan, you know, a half an inch here, an inch here, maybe 2 inches if you get more of a solid banding of snow. And then if you look at Ohio, going for just widespread half-inch to 2-inch snowfall totals. And I do think northern Indiana and even maybe areas of just eastern Indiana could get a dusting of snow depending on where you are. Some areas could get an inch and a half of wet snow. So the western U.S., the only area that's, you know, worth really talking about is the southwest still, where you'll get some moisture still flying around the Flagstaff region. Could get some showers around Phoenix, Arizona. Maybe a little moisture in like western New Mexico, but definitely could get some thunderstorm action. In kind of central Arizona, some moisture some showers in San Diego, maybe a storm, but I think there'll be more so showers, burst of rain. And this kind of just continues to drift around Arizona. And then by the time we are waking up tomorrow morning, we'll still be dealing with it somewhat. In fact, you know, it just continues to spin out here. We might be talking about this for, you know, until like May or something. But it's just this cutoff low that if there's nothing really pulling these cutoff lows one way or the other, they tend to just hang around. There's nothing really pushing this. If it has to weaken sometimes into nothing, that's why we get into tomorrow. And you still see moisture just kind of drifting around out here in Arizona. It's pretty wild that, you know, continue to see this out here. But, you know, it just happens. So the eastern U.S., just a chillier day. I mean, you can literally see where the trough is. See how it's diving down? And then it comes in the northeast. Areas will not get out the 30s in the Midwest and the Ohio Valley, the Great Lakes region, 20s and 30s for highs. Interior sections of the northeast, sub-freezing temperatures for highs. The Carolinas, Georgia, the further west and northwest you work, the cooler your high temperatures will be. But some areas will be in the 60s. But let me tell you, the 60s today will be a much chillier 60s than maybe the 60s over the last couple days. Drier air is moving in. It'll feel more crisp. When the wind blows, it'll still be a little chilly. The warmest area of the country certainly is South Florida, where you'll get into the 80s. Somewhere probably hit 90 degrees south of this frontal boundary that's going to be sweeping through Florida. Chilly day across the deep south, the mid-south. I mean, guys, 40s and 50s for highs. So it's nice out west, guys. I mean, that is well above average temperatures out west. A nice day in California. I mean, some areas might get into the 80s. Death Valley will probably get into the 80s. Nice day in the Pacific Northwest, well above average, some 70s in the lower elevations. And, I mean, look at Montana up here. Widespread 60s and 70s. You're warming on up, that's for sure. So enjoy your nice weather, and it's quiet, too. So what's to come? You know, we'll kind of give you a teaser of what we'll break down a little bit more detail tonight. But there is some chatter out there in the weather community about what's to come. And, you know, I kind of mentioned this in yesterday morning's video. And I'm going to be watching this like a hawk over the next few days. And, you know, we'll kind of start this off from Wednesday morning. One thing you'll notice, if you look at the blue line into here, it's kind of, I would say, more west to east. Kind of more zonal. Now, I mean, it's not literally going like this. But it's certainly not going like this, like dips in the jet, okay? It's kind of going more zonal. So a lot of the cold air is kind of jammed up here in Canada in the northern sections of the country. But where it is cold, it is pretty cold for mid-March standards. So Well, starting this Wednesday morning, we continue just to get rounds of light to moderate snow kind of just wrapping around this trough. And I mean, as we are getting into Wednesday nights, we could get the amplification of more widespread precipitation in the interior Northeast. I mean, like I said, it's going to be just a wintry work week for the Northeast. I mean, it really is, the interior Northeast. I mean, maybe some cold air dips down a little bit further in, and maybe Boston can get a little bit of snow. But still just that zonal look. We do have moisture kind of underneath the main jet, and these continue. So there's two things going on at this point as we get into late Thursday, right? You got an area of energy up here bringing snow for like Minneapolis, and it kind of starts in Montana, brings some snow in Montana, the Dakotas. You can see the low right in here. This could bring a little severe weather, pulls up enough moisture into Texas for a chance of severe weather. There's kind of a marginal risk in certain sections of Oklahoma and Texas, and maybe some severe weather in Louisiana. So we'll see what happens here. But, you know, it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the south central U.S. Thursday. I don't think we'll have a big severe weather threat, but certainly something to watch. And, you know, as we start to get into like Friday morning, two things are happening. Like I mentioned, we got snow up here for the Great Lakes region, maybe as far south as Chicago. And then we got a coastal low developing down here. Just basically southern stream energy and northern stream energy. Now, as we're getting into Friday evening, this is going to bring a soggy Friday yet again for the southeast. Does this low try to come up here and meet with this cold air? Not sure. But look, Friday morning, we got some snow across the southern New England region. Not sure if that'll happen. And at the same time, we back it up here. We finally start to get a lot of activity in the western U.S. after a very quiet stretch. And I do think we'll have a pretty big storm system that rides across the northern and central Rockies as we're getting into next weekend. And we could have a significant winter storm across Montana sometime next weekend. And then look at all this moisture. And we still got this spinning coastal low that we need to figure out also. So we got this thing just spinning around. And then we got this big winter storm potentially for the northern sections of the country with a low in here, maybe bringing in ingredients to the south right in here for a severe weather threat. But we got to watch this. You know, my folks up here in the Great Lakes region too, at the same time, you still got this pesky low. And we're starting to get a week out at this point, and it just shows all kinds of chaos ongoing here, like a boundary right in here, cold air getting kind of jammed up right in here into this region against the Rockies. We got multiple low pressures sort of riding this boundary. And just, we could go from pretty quiet to pretty active as we get into the last, I would say, 7 days of March. And then we got this classic looking low about past the 7-day mark riding through the middle of the country. This could bring all kinds of weather. Then we got the GFS. Same thing. Cold air jammed to the north, and it develops the same way, guys. We got this solid looking snow event that kind of develops in the Dakotas, then gets really juiced up in Minnesota, maybe northern Iowa. It's definitely more colder for certain areas, but then it looks about the same as the European once we get into Friday. Now, this is interesting. We have a little bit of combination between northern and southern stream energy. And look at this snow breaking out as far south as, you know, North Carolina and the mountains of North Carolina, right? This wants to develop this into a big, winter storm for the Northeast, basically, as we're getting into this weekend. Totally different scenario than the European. Now, you're asking probably, Mitch, do you buy this? And I would say no, I don't. And until the European agrees with the GFS, I'm telling you straight up, I don't agree with the GFS at all with this. I don't. It's been wrong with these kind of things all winter, and I think it'll be wrong again. If I'm wrong on that thinking, then I guess I am. But, you know, part of what I do here, you guys know, is I give my own opinions on things. But, you know, you compare that with what we just showed you with the Euro for the same time frame. We'll back this up into this weekend. And what time frame we're at? That's Saturday morning on the GFS. This is Saturday morning on the Euro. It shows something like that unfolding, but it really doesn't bring this low far enough north. If it does, then you do have a similar scenario than the GFS. That's, you know, easier said than done. It really is. So you could have a combination, if the GFS is right, big winter storm for certain sections of the Northeast. And then we kind of just have energy riding, just outside the Rockies right here into this region. A lot of cold air jammed up in this area. Just some colder times for your second half of March coming up. There's been some chatter about this for a while. And if this unfolds the way it's showing, then you can not tip your hat a little bit to these long range models, which really failed us back in February. But a lot of energy brewing out west, especially the northern Rockies, the Pacific Northwest. We'll have to watch and we'll fine tune all this. And then as we are getting into next weekend, about 6 days out, there's that big piece of energy that the Euro was showing, low right in here. A lot of moisture. I definitely don't think we're done with the snow in like Minneapolis, which, has had a pretty pathetic winter if you compare how much snow you've got to your seasonal average. And, it really wants to make up for lost time for the north central U.S. Big low right here, 982 millibar low. This could bring all kinds of weather and wants to deliver the winter hammer for late March into the last 10 days of March. Here it comes. The GFS is much colder if you compare it with the Euro with this storm system. Much colder. Brings a widespread, huge winter storm from, it's snowing from the Rockies all the way to like Buffalo, New York in this scenario. But even, wintry mix kind of in the pink and orange. So we got to figure out what's going to happen, guys. I think that enjoy your quiet weather that we have over the next, I would say, 4 to 5 days. I know the Northeast is not going to be quiet. You'll have some snow flying around, but nothing high impact, right? But relatively speaking, pretty quiet weather. Some small risk of severe weather. But, I think some more active times are coming. And then you look at the GFS past 7 days, you got this big storm system right in here. But, we got to figure out the one before it first. So this is the European ensemble and 2-day periods. So you notice, we're starting Wednesday morning, just a solid signal for snow around kind of southeast Canada and the Great Lakes region and the interior Northeast. And then here comes that signal for that late work week system. Brings some snow for, areas of western Canada, and then brings a stripe of snow as you have this kind of slanted zonal flow right in here with cold air kind of there for the Great Lakes region in the Northeast. And there is a 1 to 2 inch snowfall mean as far south as almost Chicago and definitely Milwaukee and all the way down to, Detroit and just the Great Lakes region, the Great Lakes states. And then this signal kind of gets going for the Northeast. And then you have a bigger signal into the weekend. All right, late weekend. Look at this big signal for the Dakotas, the Northern Plains, Montana, and to Minnesota. This is a substantial snowfall signal, but it's still just around the 7-day period. But that is a 6 to 8 inch, even some places 10-inch snowfall mean. And you can see, look at all the snow getting going across the Rockies. And then that heads on off. Looks like it's going to eject into Canada. And then what happens after that, we're just not sure. It kind of gets just way too far out. And what about that moisture feed? Aiding in the severe weather threat. One thing you look at in the long range is a moisture return. And with each ejecting low pressure, you're going to have a surge of moisture. But, there's other things to look at too. You get into Thursday, you got a little bit of humidity down here, if you will. Dew points, surface moisture into the 50s and 60s. Not a lot, though. And then we get into this weekend, not much of anything. Then you start to get a little bit of moisture return into this region. Monday is a day to watch. Dew points getting into the 60s all the way up into southern Oklahoma. And then the atmosphere sweeps on out, and then we don't know what's going to happen after that. So some interesting times ahead. We'll fine-tune some things tonight, kind of re-go over that same information, but we'll get a little bit more detailed. God bless all y'all. Y'all have a great start to your week, a great Monday, and I'll talk to you soon.